I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is Jay Angel. I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. Tonight, I have a guy who has literally been fishing the Louisiana marsh around Hopedale, Shell Beach, that whole wonderful area down there since he was a young boy. He was telling me stories about fishing with his dad down there. What a way to grow up, man. I really can't wait to talk to this guy because he's just an encyclopedia of information about fishing on the marsh. And I have none other than Capt Don Maille of Peter's Nets Fishing Adventures. How are you doing tonight, Capt Don?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. I cannot wait to get back out there in your area and fish. I get just antsy working up here in Baton Rouge. Yeah.
I can understand why.
Yeah, I'd much rather be down there on the marsh, man. Oh, look at that. We already have a comment. It's Roy Widgeon. He says, hello from USA Kayak Fishing Magazine. You know, a lot of kayak fishing goes on down there on the marsh, Roy.
We get a lot of kayak fishing that goes on between Hopedale and Shell Beach. You get a lot of people that fish the Mr. Go channel as well as Lena Lagoon and that Lake Bourne shoreline at south end side.
Boy, isn't that a long paddle out there to those rocks?
Well, no, because the rocks go all the channel actually that's rock goes all the way from pretty much Chalmette area, Bayview Avenue area, and follows the channel all the way out to almost from there 54 miles out.
54 miles. Wow.
You know, it's a solid double rock wall, rock jetty that goes down. It was originally created as a shortcut for the shipping industry to get into the city of New Orleans without having to go up the Mississippi River.
Sure.
Since Katrina, they've dammed it off at Hopedale and then put the wall in Chalmette. So it's no longer navigable as far for large vessels, but for sportsmen and a lot of shrimpers, it's very navigable and holds a lot of fish.
Yeah, that's all I've heard. I've never fished it, but I fished the Hopedale area, and we caught so many trout that day I was there. It was just 5 guys in the boat, and every one of us was catching trout all day long. Guys, if you come down here, contact Don. That's what you have to look forward to. When I lived up north, I very rarely caught fish like I catch down here in the marsh. It's not unusual to go out there and catch 50 trout. Now, they're not all going to be 20 inches long, but to catch a bunch of 15 to 20-inch trout, that's not unusual. That's what I like about this area. That's why I'm so excited about it. But Don and I were talking before the podcast, and he said something that absolutely blew me away. That I said, when do you target trout? And he said, well, you got to get over that, man, because you target conditions. And man, when he said that, I thought back, wow. You want to explain that, Don?
Sure. The problem you have, okay, first of all, your marsh or your water is affected by a bunch of different variables. You've got wind direction, you got wind speed, you've got barometric pressure, you've got tide currents, water levels. All these play into a part of what fish you're going to catch. We would like to say, we get clients to get on the boat and say, oh, we want to go after trout today. We can try. We can go after them and see what we can do. We'll go where they've been hanging out. But sometimes it just doesn't pan out. So what you have to learn to do is to adjust. As well as now we have the new state limits on our trout, where no longer are they 25 per person or 12-inch minimum. Now we have a slot size that's 13 to 20, and you can only have 2 over 20 inches, and then you can only have 15 per person. And no longer can you keep guide limits. So if you're chartering with a guide, all you're allowed is if you've got 2 anglers on the boat, is 30 trout. So in order to fill a box, you may have to adjust and go after sheephead, go after redfish, go after black drum, go after white trout, whatever's biting, to keep the clients interested. Also, like right now, we're in that our weather's got us to where we're kind of in a transitional phase.
Sure.
We're about a month. We're about a real month behind what we should really be. We still have, like this weekend, we have a cold front coming in. These cold fronts are dirtying the water up. This last one we had, what was it, 4 days ago? We're dealing with negative water levels in the morning. Which dirties the water up, because as that tide falls out hard, it's going to bring all that muck and mud that's in the marsh and put it in the water. Dirty water, you're not catching trout. You may find the occasional one here and there, but a trout is a sight predator.
Yes.
He's got to see what he's going after. So you dealt with dirty water. What do? You change your tactics and you go after either sheephead or redfish, which the dirty water they don't really care about. So you've got to kind of adjust yourself as a fisherman. If you really want to be a good fisherman and go home with a lot of fish, don't target, unless you're just tournament fishing or that's just what you want to do for that day. But if you want to fill a box with some meat, don't target a certain species. Go for what bites. Take what the water gives you.
Wow. I never really thought of, like I told you, like we talked about, I had the tournament mindset for so many years. And no, you got to catch bass. The bass fishermen call walleye green carp. The walleye fishermen call bass, bad words.
I had a client on my boat that you caught a largemouth bass on the boat, and I've never heard this term before. And he was from Alabama and called it a ditch pickle.
Ditch pickle? Yeah.
A ditch pickle. And I went, what?
Green
ditch
carp?
Pickle?
Green carp. Yeah, ditch pickle. That's not I can say that on my podcast. Yeah, ditch pickles. But that's fascinating. So what you're saying is you want to look for clean water.
Yeah, you definitely want clean water with trout.
If you think it's going to be there.
Do what now?
If you think there's going to be clean water somewhere, you're going to go looking for it, correct?
Correct. Clean, moving water.
Yes, moving water. That's something else. That's something else that I've heard a lot about.
No moving water, no fish.
Now, does that even go for redfish?
Yes, that goes for all of it.
Okay. That's also
fish are basically lazy. Okay, they want moving water to bring the bait to them. Now you get trout in a feeding frenzy, like in the spring late spring when you start getting birds diving on the shrimp. They're aggressive and they'll go after it. But most fish are lazy. They're just going to take what comes in front of them and they're going to wait to ambush it. That's why most of the time you fish points, tide lines, drain outs, because the fish are sitting out there and they're waiting for that bait to come to them.
Yes, they are. That's all fish. Even the freshwater fish are lazy. They're going to sit in ambush points where their prey can't see them. So redfish don't care about dirty water. You can still catch them in dirty water, you said.
No. What I like to tell clients is a redfish is a scent predator. It smells, especially here in Louisiana. Now, I know in states like Florida, Texas, where they have a lot clearer water, those redfish are a lot more spooky. I've got friends of mine that tournament fish Florida, and they say presentation is everything. You don't present that bait just right, he ain't touching it. But here in Louisiana, our marsh is so, that black mucky mud that we have in our estuary, which is so rich in nutrients in a food source, it also creates that stained water. Even when our water is super clean, it's still, you may see 1.5 2 foot visibility, but you're not 3 feet of water. You're not seeing to the bottom.
Yeah, you don't have typical. Yeah.
Right. Well, with that makes it to where he's just a big, lazy, opportunistic feeder. If it comes in front of him and it smells good and looks good, and you excite him enough with it, he's eating it. He don't care. That's why I've had days where you've had really, and this is something for your listeners, that if you get a day where you've got a really windy day and it's dirty water, switch to dead bait. Dead bait will work
Dead
better than
bait.
live.
Dead
Because
bait.
dead bait has scent.
Now let's talk about this. My favorite dead bait is when I can find bait at the bait shack that's fresh dead. Would you agree with me? It hasn't been frozen.
I prefer it because it's not as. The only reason I prefer that is a lot of your frozen shrimp, when you defrost it, it kind of loses some of its viability. Not so
Yes.
much that it changes. Now, the only shrimp that I'm not particularly fond of is when we can't get live bait and you're getting frozen shrimp. There's a shrimp they call IQF, instant quality frozen. They add a salt to it, and I really think the fish don't like it.
Okay. I've also bought some dead shrimp at a bait shop that I couldn't get it to stay on the hook.
That's probably frozen, but your fresh bait,
Yeah, it was frozen.
Fresh bait's not bad.
I've caught a lot of fish on fresh dead shrimp. Lots of them.
Trout are going to like more live bait. They're going to like live
Okay.
shrimp, or they're going to want something that's, they're, like I said, they're not a scent predator. They're a sight predator.
Now here's a question for you. Do you ever use live minnows like cockahos for?
When I fished on the west side of the state, I did, but over here in our area, we don't have them.
Oh, you don't have those over there. Okay.
No. We used to have them, 30 years ago, but I guess after Katrina or whatever have you, or with the freshwater intrusion from the Mississippi River, we don't see them.
Because most of the 20+ inch trout I've caught, I'm talking Grand Isle, Lake Calcasieu. I've caught on, no, not on Lake Calcasieu, but most of the really big ones I've caught in Grand Isle, I've caught on either soft plastics or cockaho minnows.
Well, most of my big trout that I've caught have all been on, big trout, like 6 pound plus, have been on topwater baits.
Topwater baits, that would be fun. Are you talking like a Zara spook?
Like a Zara spook or a top dog or a she dog.
Okay, that must be exciting. I have actually heard stories of a redfish coming up and turning its whole body over to grab something like a Zara spook.
I've seen it.
You've seen it, man. That would be exciting. I have caught a couple of trout on Zara spooks.
I wasn't a guide at the time, but we were working an island out in Black Bay at Delacroix, and I was working it was a top dog, and I was working it across the shoreline, and he came up, and actually, I wish I could have videoed it. He literally came up out of the back of the water, behind the bait, came out of the water, and just engulfed it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. That would be $1 million video right there.
It would be.
It would be. You're talking 6 million hits. That's one of the most exciting things of all the fish I've caught. Topwater, which is, fish for bass with topwater a lot. I've seen them jump out and grab it on the way down just maybe 3 times.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of fun, especially if you get this time of the year all the way through the summer when you get under the birds. Throw topwater under those birds.
I'm waiting for that. I'm going to start going with one with one rigged up from now on. One chance in 1,000 I see it. At least I'll be ready. I can't.
We haven't. Go ahead.
I can't think of anything more exciting in fishing than having a fish jump out of the water and grab it on the way down for topwater baits.
It's pretty exciting.
I could see that happening if you're fishing under the birds. I've only got fish under the birds probably 5 times, and it doesn't last long sometimes either.
Depends on the flock that you get, and
With my luck, I'd probably cast out there and hit one of the birds.
That's happened more than you believe.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. I'm not down here, but I've seen it up north. I did that. I didn't mean to.
Oh, I've had it to where you work in a topwater, stupid seagull, pick it up.
Oh, good. Good. Wow. Stupid thief. You got me laughing. I spit out my soda. I can see that happening. A seagull would grab something, so will a tern. So when I first got down here, people told me that birds, they don't lie. And then I started talking to some guys, and they told me that the terns actually do lie.
The terns lie. You got to watch. It's only the gulls that you can work the birds.
You can trust the seagull then.
Don't work the terns. Don't work the pelicans. Only the seagulls. And what it is the trout, or the other thing you have to watch is especially when you get earlier in the summertime, you may get birds diving, and there's fish underneath them, but it may end up being nothing but gaff tops.
Gaff tops, okay.
You know, the sail cats.
Oh yeah, I've caught several of them.
That's kind of an underappreciated fish. He's slimy, but I'll tell you, he's just as tasty as a freshwater cat.
I have heard that. I've never eaten one.
Well, his diet is, he's not a bottom dweller like a hardhead is.
Yes.
He's a live bait feeder, and a lot of times they'll swim with trout. But the other thing, if you ever get into a big mess of trout and you catch a bull red, your trout bites over.
Oh, really?
Yep.
The bull reds eat them?
Yep.
That makes sense.
Bull red, a redfish, an adult redfish, is basically an apex predator. There's not a whole lot out there that eats him.
Sure.
And the bigger he gets, you know, I've had clients ask, what does he eat? Whatever he wants.
Yeah. Whatever doesn't move fast enough. Yeah. And guys, if you've never caught a redfish, you got to get down here and try this at least once. And take out a guy. Listen to Captain Don, man. This guy knows the marsh. Come on down here. Give him a call. I got this phone number right there on the screen. Come on down here. Give him a call. You got to do this at least once. I'll tell you what, if you do this once, you're going to want to do it again. That's just the way it is. If you've got the fishing bug like I do, you might just end up moving down here.
Well, it's not just the fishing that, you know, our environment offers, our marsh in Louisiana offers. It's also, you know, it's an adventure of a lifetime for someone, because you go out and you're right there with the alligators. There's bald eagles, you know, hogs, otters,
yeah,
seagulls. You know, you name the wildlife that's around that you're looking at it. That some people only have the opportunity to look at that in a zoo.
Yes. And you're going to see these great big pelicans diving into the water at 50 miles an hour and with their mouths open. How the heck does that thing survive that? I think it would break its neck, but it doesn't. That's what they were designed to do. You're exactly right, Don. You know, it's the whole experience. The wildlife, you go out in the morning, there's steam coming off the water, and you go zooming through the steam, and you can smell the salt water, which smells differently than fresh water. Look over there on the shoreline, and there's a 12-foot long alligator. Is that thing alive or dead? Oh, it's very much alive. It's just waiting for you to come close. It's a wonderful place down here, guys. You know, just come on down. Man, you can fly into New Orleans, and it's not a very far drive to to the fishing.
That's why our license plates say Sportsman's Paradise.
Yes. Well, but northern Louisiana has some of the biggest bass you could possibly imagine. Toledo Bend, Bussy Breaks giving up 13-pounders now. Got some of the biggest crappies you can imagine. Central Louisiana has the Atchafalaya Spillway, which is just loaded with bass. You might not catch a 6-pounder there, but you're going to catch 15 to 20 inches, and they're going to be this big around because the brackish water is just loaded with shrimp that they just gobble up, and loaded with crawfish that they just gobble up all. And like you were saying, Don, they don't have to work hard to get that. Then you get down in the marsh, and if you catch a largemouth bass down in the marsh, a 15-inch bass is going to weigh 3.5 pounds.
Yeah, because he's eating the same diet that the trout. He's eating shrimp, he's eating crabs, and it makes their meat taste better.
It does. They're brilliant green. Like, I've never seen it. That's why I have a picture of myself with a marsh bass for my Facebook profile, because it just looks so cool. It's a different color than the other bass, than the bass you're going to catch up north. If you catch them out of clear water, they're almost bleached. You catch them in the Louisiana marsh, they're like really green. And then talking about the fishing in the marsh like we have been for the last 20 minutes, it's on a different scale, guys. It's on a different scale, and I'm not taking anything away from the fishing in the up north. I love it, man. Go up there, catch smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, yellow perch are some of the best tasting fish I've ever had. Walleyes, catch that stuff. I used to fish those fish all winter long, and I don't like ice fishing. I would just chop out some ice at the boat ramp in the rivers and go. Then I had to chop out ice when I got back. That's a young man's game. I can't do that anymore. I
fished with a friend of mine. It's a guide over in the Seattle area, and we went salmon fishing. We spent all day to catch, and he was all excited because we caught a limit of salmon, 6 salmon.
6 salmon, like, yeah.
You're excited because we caught 6 fish? I'd be upset.
That's actually a good day, particularly if you're going after kings. There's just not that many of them left anymore. When I was a boy, just like fishing on Lake Michigan, we'd go out there during the spawning season and catch 30 kings, and our arms would hurt. Even 14-year-old arms. My arms hurt by the time we were done. There's just not as many of them left anymore. It's kind of sad, but that's just the way things go. We have to, like you said, you have to fish the current conditions. And I'm glad you told me that, because it's going to change the way I look at it now.
Well, as I was saying earlier, when I was growing up, from the time I was a boy till probably in my early 30s, you could spot fish. You could go back and look at a log. And I mean, not saying you still can't somewhat do it, but you could look at a log and say, okay, today the high temperature is 75 degrees. I got a falling tide all day. The wind's blowing out of the southeast. All right, I can go here and I'll find fish. They're not like that right now anymore. They haven't been like that in 15 years, at least not in our area. Is it, a loss of habitat because of all the hurricanes we've had over the years? It's a good possibility. Freshwater intrusion from the Mississippi River over the last few years, from the Mardi Gras cut and the Carnarvon diversion has affected things and moved fish around. You've got to learn to fish conditions now. Look for moving water. Look for bait that's in the water. Things of that nature. You can't just always rely. You can go to your old spots and see, but a lot of it, like spots that I fished 15 years ago, as Benny Grunch says in the song, ain't there no more.
Ain't there no more. Ain't there no more. That makes it hard on the shorebound fishermen.
It does.
Because shorebound fishermen, I like to write about that, just to show guys that where they can have opportunities, even if they don't have a boat. Bring your kids out here, teach them how to fish. But when you only have 3 spots you can pick from,
it is. Now, fortunately, the area that you like to fish around there, around Grand Isle, that's always been a good area where people could fish from the road. We've got a few here in the St. Bernard Parish area, but most of our areas are still you're boat bound. You're going to have to go by boat.
Next couple years, I will have a boat, and you'll see me down there. I'll be down there all the time. And it's a 3-hour drive for me. I don't care. That's 3 hours driving to go fishing. I don't think that is that long of a trip in the scheme of fishing.
Yeah, I've done it many, many times in my life.
When I was fishing tournaments when I was younger, sometimes I'd fish 6 hours. I'd drive 6 hours, drive through the night, fish the tournament, and drive home. But I can't do that anymore.
I know that feeling. That's why I have a camp now.
Yeah, I bet you do. Well, hey, Captain Don, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous to shout outs? Thank yous to your sponsors, to people who've helped you, organizations you are involved in.
Well, we've got a few. If you're going to fish our areas, I'm going to tell you some things that you definitely want to make sure and have.
Okay.
If you have a boat and you're going to fish Louisiana waters, you better have sea tow.
Yes.
You better have sea tow.
Yes.
If you go out without sea tow, you're an idiot. Sea tow or Boat US. Sea tow is more predominant here than anywhere, but it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen, that you're either going to get stuck, broke down. Twice in 2 years, I caught derelict crab traps that I didn't see that blew the lower unit on my motor. And I've had to be towed in. Sea tow at least comes out and gets you. They don't charge you anything.
So sea tow is an insurance policy, correct?
Basically, you pay $249 a year, and if you have a problem, they come get you. Whether you run out of fuel or you have to be towed in or whatever it is.
Or you get stuck because the
low water.
Low tide came faster than you thought it was going to come. Yes.
Well, one of the biggest problems we have from Hopedale to get out to the Bay LY Black Bay area, what they call the rocks, fishing outside. Okay, a lot of people that don't know the area want to take the Spoil Canal. Well, there are 2 areas of the Spoil Canal that are fairly treacherous. That if you don't know it, you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
You're flat gonna get stuck. And that's why you want to have something like that. The other thing, it's not a shout out, but the other thing that I was talking with another friend of mine earlier, you're going to have a boat, at least invest in a $99 handheld VHF radio. Because when you come out in the marsh, you're going to get into some areas to where you're not going to have cell phone service.
Sure.
And at least a handheld radio, if you get into a problem, you can at least contact Coast Guard.
So with a handheld radio, that's powerful enough to contact the Coast Guard from where you're talking about?
Coast Guard to get you from anywhere.
Okay.
They are that powerful.
You're that powerful. You don't have to be. Okay. That's a good point. Well, thank you very much for that. Guys, you've been given a lot of information here tonight. What I think you really should do is just plan a trip down here to Louisiana. You guys know where I grew up. You guys know I've been fishing my entire life. You know how I feel about largemouth bass, but I'm having a hard time fishing for largemouth bass nowadays, not because I don't know how to do it, but because I'm so focused on this coastal thing now. I can't I can't think about anything else anymore.
So have you had the chance to get hooked into one of our more unappreciated fish, the sheephead?
I've caught some pretty good sheepheads. I've never targeted them, but
let me tell you, my list as far as taste for fish, flounder's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is sheephead.
Really?
Number 3 is trout, then redfish.
Wow.
Because the nice thing about a sheephead, whether he's that big or that big, he tastes identical.
Okay.
Because of his diet. And pound for pound, now some think they're hard to clean. You learn how to clean them. No, they're not.
You learn.
But the meat in them is so white and flaky and so delicious.
You're not the only person who's ever told me that. And I know that's what they use for imitation crab meat.
Well, now
Yes.
they're finding out that you can use it for even more practices. Like I do a lot of. I'd rather sheephead on a half shell than I would redfish.
Wow.
It's a lot milder taste.
Okay. That's good. That's good advice. Man, I'm learning all kinds of things tonight. Thank you for coming on my show.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on my show, man. You know, one last thing I forgot to talk about. Rod selection. It it's kind of hard because in the coast and coastal waters, you never really know if you're going to hook into a trout or redfish or even a black drum. That's up around 30 pounds. So what I've had to go to is a 7 foot medium action. What is your preferred action?
Well, for the most part, for clients, I am in with a rod manufacturer out of South Carolina, Fish Sticks, and I use their Tidewater rods. They're a fantastic rod, and the two that I love the most that Dale has is the 7 foot medium and the 7.6 medium. The 7.6 actually is. I didn't think I'd like. He sent it to me accidentally, and I didn't know how I'd like it. Because I generally don't like a long rod like that. I'd rather a 7 foot. But
Yeah.
I fell in love with it because it has a sensitivity of a lighter rod, and it's got the backbone of a good medium heavy, but yet it's got the length to go ahead and get that bait out there.
That could get the 7'6". You got a lot of whipping power with that. That's what I like about my razor rods is they have the whipping power to cast a country mile. They have the sensitivity to be able to feel a bite when you have 200 feet of line out. And also it's got the backbone to set the hook and to bring in a redfish, because redfish have a tough mouth. And also when you're talking about sheep's head, they have human teeth. So
yeah, they do.
They're not the easiest fish to set the hook on either. I mean, you
really kind of can't set the hook with a sheephead. You got to kind of let him. You got to, usually what I tell clients is when you see the cork go down, kind of count to 2 and slowly pull back. Don't jerk back, but slowly pull back so that you get that hook set in his hard mouth. And then once you feel that do on a rod, then you go ahead and jerk away on him.
So are you using circle hooks then?
No, I use primarily J hooks.
J hooks, okay.
Wow. My preferred is Four Horsemen makes a it's like an 1/8 ounce weight on a J hook, a regular J hook, but it's slotted so that I like it as an overall hook, because if I'm fishing trout and we get into the birds, I can easily slide plastic on, and it's grooved enough to where it'll hold the plastic, but yet it's not so heavy that it affects the shrimp's movement. He still can pop himself out the water if he wants to.
Okay. Because I was using the kale hooks for shrimp.
But I mean, I've used them, but I prefer the weighted the J hooks.
A weighted J hook, okay. So Four Horsemen makes that, okay. I'll have to look that up after we get off this.
It's just a real skinny. It's just weighted on a shaft, but yet it's grooved so that when you want to put plastic on it, the plastic doesn't come off.
Okay. Well, hey, Don, well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it.
I do appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate everybody who tuned in to the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. We're talking with Captain Don Maille from Peter's Nets Fishing Adventures. Take you out there I fished out of Hopedale. That's the only way it can be talked about is it's an adventure. You're not
adventure of a lifetime.
You're not fishing in Detroit, Michigan there, guys. This is real nature. You're not going to see huge buildings. It's just a great place to go and fish. It's going to be hot. Just, it's Louisiana, man. What do you want? It's going to be hot, but you're still going to catch fish. Okay, with that, I'm going to end the podcast. Captain Don, please stick around. I'd like to talk to you for 2 minutes afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody.